I'll sit at 34.
Okay.
And eggs freezy, scrapple,
And what kind of toast?
no toast.
No toast? All right. Thanks. Did you want anything
Do you get Phil's email?
Yeah. You sent it on Monday.
Okay, I think we're okay? Good morning. Good spring morning to everybody. Welcome to the weekly meeting for the Rotary Club of Harleysville. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag for the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of all the things we say and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And our reflection this morning will be from Jerry Beal.
Lord, inspire us today with qualities of good leadership. Give us insight to make wise decisions, integrity to face the truth, courage to make the difficult choices, compassion for the needs of others. Make us a model of justice and honor to the world, and let us never forget that our job is service of God. Amen.
Thank you, Jerry. Before I get started with our upcoming events, there's one thing I neglected to mention last week. If no one has noticed, one of the waitresses looks like she's expecting, and I think it'd be nice if we put a basket together for her. Did everybody hear what I said?
No.
I said, and I'm trying to whisper,
To get people to listen.
it looks like one of our waitresses is expecting, and it'd be nice if we put a basket together for her. Okay. All right. So. Okay.
Do you know when she's due?
I didn't ask, no, but I was thinking about asking the other girl.
Okay.
Or maybe, maybe if I could maybe get her to the side at some point during the meeting and see if I can find out. I'm a secret squirrel mission for that. Okay. So today's a big day. We have our four-way speech contest this afternoon at 2:45 at Christopher Dock Academy. Phil, do you have an update for that, or any final needs that you need for that?
We're covered. I see a lot of faces of people who are volunteering to make this all happen. But about a 3-minute meeting afterwards, I have some sheets and anything that anybody might want for that from that standpoint. But I encourage the entire club to go. And I do have, it's at Dock Academy in the Longacre Theater, or the Longacre Center, it's the theater. And I made a couple, just if you need to know where it is. But, actually back down. It's 2:45. It'll be about an hour. We actually have a lot of contestants. We have 7 supposed.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, which normally if you have, 4, 5, 6, we're doing okay to that. So I'll pass these around if you want just to zero in where it is. You know it. Yeah, please show up and Love to see you. This afternoon.
We'll be there.
Be there?
Lonnie's gonna be with me.
Okay.
We got two.
Got two for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get Jackie for that.
Good. Yeah.
You know, I know I've said this in the past, but I can't say it enough times. When I had the opportunity to see some of the students who had, or some of the winners of four-way speech contests within our district speak at last year's district conference. It was absolutely amazing to see these young people, how poised they were, and listen to them do their speeches and integrate the four-way test into the presentations. Okay. There is an RLI coming up on March 25th, which is this Saturday. That will, you know what? It's going to be a great rainy day to do something indoors. If you're looking for something if you want to learn more about Rotary, it looks like it's going to be a washout on Saturday. So it's at DeSales University at the Gambit Center. It is from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it's a half a day. Really get your weekend started on the right foot. You can register for that probably still on the district website. So all the information is there if you're interested. Oh, before that, I do want to mention later today, the membership committee is having a virtual meeting at 6 o'clock. If anyone is interested in participating in that or joining that virtual meeting, please contact Marcia and she'll make sure that she sends out the link for that, the Zoom link. I think we're going to be using our club Zoom link for that. So if you have information, please contact Marcia for that. Anyone's welcome. You know, I think Marcia's spearheading great plans to grow our membership within the club, both for here and I think at Skip Back. We are going to be having a combination happy hour Skip Back Club meeting on April 5th. That is a Holy Week. I'm sorry, 4th? Tuesday, the 3rd. Whatever the Tuesday is that week. It's a Holy Week, so we're not going to have the happy hour on the Thursday. So we would typically have the Skip Back Club meeting on Tuesday. So we're going to do a combination meeting happy hour. Which is kind of how it turns out the last couple of meetings anyway. Right? Discussion. Yeah. But we're encouraging more people to attend. If you know anyone who's interested in learning about Rotary and is not interested in waking up at 7 o'clock and coming to a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, we're certainly encouraging them to attend that meeting. Yeah, 5:30 at Time Out and Skip Back. Yeah.
Hey, just a quick question.
Yes?
Question is, that's in addition to the Wednesday meeting or instead of our Wednesday morning meeting that week?
I'm sorry, it's in addition to. Yeah,
Got
this is the Skip Back Club.
Okay.
Or in place of. Yeah, if you did not want to attend at 7 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday, you could go at 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Yes. Designer Bag Bingo is coming up for Jenna's Blessing Bags on April 14th. That'll be at St. Maria Goretti Church in Hatfield. If you're interested in that, you can go on Jenna's Blessing Bags website. I think they'll have a link for that information on there. From what I've heard, it's a pretty fun event. It's BYOB. There'll be lots of great prizes. And it's a fun, you don't have to be a person who likes designer bags to go. I think men can go as well. Maybe you want to win something that you can re-gift to somebody else, to your significant other. The watershed stream cleanup, the Perkiomen watershed is having their stream cleanup on April 15th. I think Valerie and Tom are trying to register to join me at the site that I'm going to be at. And it looks like that site is filling up. That event is pretty popular. It is the largest stream cleanup event in the state of Pennsylvania. So, space may be limited if you're looking to participate in that. But, if you're interested in doing something outside for the environment, there are many different sites within the Montgomery County area. I know there's a whole bunch up by Green Lane as well, and up and down the Perkiomen Creek. I think the one I signed up for is going to be somewhere in Harleysville. Our Adopt a Highway is going to be on April 22nd in the morning. There should be a sign-up sheet that was in, Earl, did you see that in the box over there? Okay.
Sign-up sheet for the, I think it's on the, I saw it. But it's out the highway, never mind.
Yeah, let's make sure we circulate that. So that will be, we're going to be meeting in the morning in the parking lot behind Harleysville Bank, across the street from Hennings. Afterwards, if people are interested, we're going to go over to Hennings and have some coffee, maybe some chit chat, some socialization afterwards. So that'll be a fun morning. That same day, that evening is going to be our family bowling night. That's going to be April 22nd in the evening. I think Valerie has some information about that. If you want to, if you have some things you want to comment for that, Valerie, you're looking for volunteers.
Pay attention. March 20th, I sent I don't remember, it was the agenda or the recap, but if you check your email on March 20th, at the very bottom is a link highlighted in yellow for Eventbrite. So you can share that with anyone who wants to come and help participate in our bowling fundraiser. It is April 22nd. We're asking everyone to arrive as close to 5 as possible to get shoes, get registered, get your lanes. They don't want everyone showing up right at 5:30. Plus, you want to take advantage of 2 hours for bowl. So 5:30 to 7:30 is when you're actually on your lanes with your friends, family, coworkers, BSG group, whoever you're bringing to have fun. It is $125 for the lane, and you can have 4 to 7 bowlers per lane. We are probably going to have something like hoagies, cupcakes for sale in addition for the fundraiser. The snack bar will also be available. The only ask is that you don't bring in any outside pizza. It's also a BYOB. Be responsible, please. We will have a registration table at the entrance. We will have a small room where we can set up the food that we want to sell, as well as raffle baskets and our 50/50. So I'm going to pass this around. If you don't like to do things online, you can always just write a check to Rotary Club Foundation, right? Harleysville Rotary Club Foundation. And you can bring that to the meeting, or I can make arrangements to collect that from you. If you're not comfortable signing up on Eventbrite. So I'm going to pass this around. If you want to pay by check, please fill this out with your name, your cell phone number, and your email. I'm going to start over here. One more thing is, the second page is a sign-up sheet if you want to donate a raffle basket that will also be used as raffle off for this fundraiser. There are 4 ideas there now. If you have a different idea for a basket, by all means, put that down as well. Any questions? No. Yes.
What do we decide about when paper lanes?
I don't have any of that information.
Yeah, well, you have the choice, so we choose. I don't, just curious if we decided, because I know that there were, we had a lot of people signed up for that event, and a lot of sponsors signed up for that event.
What was it there? I'll check with you.
It's actually like, I don't know, we'll have to go into that. Because I was part of that group. So we'll have
Any
to-
questions from our online members?
We'll-
We'll get that.
Yeah,
Hope
we're
to
gonna have
see
to
you all
figure it out.
there.
We're gonna have to
Thank you, Valerie. Okay, following that, going into May, we are going to have a volunteer day event at the Sebastian Riding Academy on May 13th. Sometime between now and then, I'll be in touch with Chris over there to find out what our list of activities are going to be for that day. And also on Following that, on April 26th, we are going to have an in-club meeting service day. We're going to have a Plarn event. If nobody knows what Plarn is, it's a way to make plastic grocery shopping bags into yarn, and that is used by a local nonprofit to weave mats that are used, are donated to people who are homeless so that they don't have to sleep directly on the ground. And Frank has a few comments about that.
It's gonna be interesting, that day, because we're doing that. What we wanna do is set up, just gonna, basically you cut the, we'll show you, you cut the bag and it creates loops. So we're gonna need cutters and loopers, and we get this big hole. We do need a lot of scissors though, please be careful. But, you need the longer shears, don't bring in those little arty things you used to have in grade school and stuff. You need shears to cut the plastic bags. And we'll just work it around. We'll use the whole time that day. Do just announcements, and then if we need, we'll just do that. And we'll just set it up like something like 2 cutters, 1 looper. And then we can, if we get ahead of one or the other, then we can just switch around.
Okay.
Okay, I have the bags. I didn't bring any bags. I got my bags. All we need are the scissors.
So you guys might remember a few years ago, we had Bev Weinberg speak at our club, and we were still at Peter Becker. So Bev's group takes this Plarn. They have a loom system that they use to weave these mats. And that, again, they take those down to the city and they donate them to people who are homeless so that they don't have to sleep directly on the ground, especially in the winter months. 4-way test breakfast. That's another big event coming up for us on May 17th. That will take place of our regular club meeting that Wednesday, and that'll be at Indian Valley Country Club. I think we're still building up our sponsors for that event, so that's going to be another excellent event for our club. June 25th, we have Concert Sundays. That's going to be a great event. It's right before the 4th of July holiday, so it should be a great event for us. It's a great time slot, as long as the weather is great. We need to start putting together a group for that. I think Frank is going to be spearheading that, but we're looking for a committee or other volunteers to help to put that together. And then August is 4-way parking again, and as we get closer to that event, we'll be sending out sign-up sheets for that. A couple of these events that we have coming up in particular, Adopt a Highway, Sebastian Riding Academy Volunteer Day, and the Concert Sundays are days that we are looking to engage the Rotary Club to get some of their younger, Interact Club, the Interact Club, ways for us to engage our younger Rotarians to increase their volunteer service hours. So people who are spearheading those events, Sandy is going to need to know some particular information as far as what the dates for those events, when people need to arrive, who the contact person is going to be, so that that can be communicated to the Interact group at the club meeting, so that they can communicate that with their parents, so that they can we can recruit volunteers for those events. So they have the proper information that they need. Does anyone have any questions about that? Yes, Frank.
Also, we have the date for the call, which is August 18th.
August 18th?
It's a week earlier than normal because we couldn't get the pavilion on our normal Friday. So it's Friday, August 18th.
If you remember what an amazing fall we had last year, the golf outing was very successful last year. This year, because we made the big investment for the croquet equipment, we have a great opportunity with this year's croquet tournament. And speaking with Gary, I think we already have some people who are extremely interested in participating in that event. So it sounds like that event's going to grow. And, we keep having greater success every year with our expanded Halloween parade fun festival each year. So I think this fall is going to be spectacular. Any questions about any of those events? That's a lot of information. So we're going to have a busy spring. Hopefully we'll have a nice quiet summer, and then we're going to ramp up again in the fall. Yes, Phil?
Not a question, but if I can add on real quickly the four-way test speech contest. On the regional competition, we have April 1st. And unfortunately, Kyle or myself are typically there, but we are unable to be there. Both of us will be out of town. So if anybody would like to go to it, it's at Montgomery County Community College, the Pottstown campus. It's a great event. It's just kind of a little support for our candidate at the regional level. Just let me know.
Any of these events that you mentioned, or any events that are coming up, even through the fall, you need to get me that information as soon as possible so we can get it on the Interact students' calendar. Your parents need to know all of that information, the date, the time, the location, who the contact person will be, phone number for the contact person, the number of volunteers. If we don't have that information, we're not going to have volunteers. So, get that to me as soon as you possibly can, so I can get it to the teacher.
That's important. Anybody who's, the chairman of any of those committees or spearheading any of those events, the number of volunteers requested is important to know as well. Yeah. Okay. It's time now for Rotary Trivia.
Yeah.
Facing this way or what?
We're facing, I'm not sure which way.
Another exciting edition of our Rotary Trivia. Join us as one lucky contestant will play to win a fabulous credit prize, showing us what they know about Rotary. I'm your announcer, Larry Moss, here with your host, Bill Jenkins.
Welcome, Larry, welcome. All right, let's get started by telling the audience about today's grand prize.
I'll ask the audience to direct your attention to our spokesperson, Carol Bauer. Just in time for the last frost of the season, today's contestant is playing for a Frost Guard winter windshield cover. You can finally stop scraping your vehicle's windshield in freezing cold conditions. It's made from durable polyester, backed with a stick-resistant PET lining, with a quick dry storage pouch. Quick dry storage pouch that goes on and comes off in seconds. Remove Frost Guard windshield snow cover. Simply roll it up and slide it into the included pouch to prevent a soggy back seat. Cost of today's grand prize, no worries, it's been covered.
Well, wait, I would have liked to have found one of those on my windshield, but I found something about it. On my windshield, there was a nice note that was left by a cop, just letting me know that I had parked correctly. It said parking fine. Anyway, how about introducing today's contestant?
All right, today's contestant was selected at random from our studio audience just moments ago. Even though this Rotarian is as smart as they come, an incorrect answer will, no doubt, leave them frosted. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Earl.
If I didn't win, you got what you deserved on the tickets, that is. All right, what are the three parts that make up the structure of Rotary? Clubs, Rotary International, and the Rotary Foundation. Rotarians, Rotary International, and the Rotary Foundation. Rotarians, clubs, and the Rotary International. Mo, Larry, and Curl. Those three components. So anyway, what three parts really comprise that general structure of Rotary? Now remember, you have to ask the audience, 50-50, ask a friend. In a way.
I'm gonna ask a friend, Frank.
Okay.
That's a good plan.
I don't know either.
I would think
Well, Frank goes with A.
Right.
So, what do you think?
I think A.
Hey, okay, this is pretty frost cover and my parking fine. All right, let's get rid of the incorrect answers. Okay, well, let's see what we have. It is! Frank, Rotary International, the Rotary Foundation. Oh, but as always, but wait, there's more. Here it is. Rotary is made up of 3 parts: our clubs, Rotary International, the Rotary Foundation. So together we work to make lasting change in the communities in the world. So Rotary and Rotaract clubs, they unite dedicated people to exchange ideas, build relationships, and take action. Rotary International supports the Rotary clubs and coordinating global programs and initiatives. And of course, the Rotary Foundation helps fund humanitarian activities from local service projects to global initiatives. So it's in that fashion. And I guess the true reality, and this is always something I like that line with, is clubs, Rotarians belong to clubs, but clubs are what chartered by Rotary International at the end of the day. So anyway, Earl, thanks for playing. Hopefully I'm a winner as well. And we'll go from there.
Congratulations, Earl. Okay, we do have a guest speaker today. Here to speak to us about Montgomery County Voter Services is Brandon Yett. Welcome, Brandon.
I just want to say that was one of the greatest experiences. I thought I was on The Price is Right in the audience just now. So thank you for having me at 7 a.m. and experiencing that was way better than I was worried about people at 7 a.m. were going to be like today. So thank you. All right. So my name is, as you said, Brandon Yett. I'm the communications manager for Montgomery County Voter Services. Who we are is we're nonpartisan. We run elections. So we're in charge of voter registration, counting ballots, canvassing them, recruiting all 2,300 poll workers, certifying the elections, and mostly doing everything behind the scenes. We're not associated with any parties or anything like that. So we're just in charge of conducting the elections. So the primary this year is going to take place on May 16th. As a reminder, for those that don't know, Pennsylvania is one of the closed states. So that means only Democrats and Republicans are able to vote, unless there's a question, which if you live in Taliesin is the case. Everyone else, you have to be Democrat or Republican. And then, so the candidates that win will appear again in the fall general election. So you'll see them again, the winners. Registration deadline this year is May 1st. We've been working with the state to try and modernize voting a little bit. So you're able to go online and register, and you're able to go to the website, vote.pa.gov. You can update, change your registration. Anything there is available. A lot of stuff. I do have paper forms as well if it's easier, whatever you would like. But if you just enter in your driver's license or information, it all comes up in 3 seconds. All that, once it's been updated, we'll send you out an ID card in about a week. That'll say where you're voting or saying that you're registered to vote. Most of that, everyone here is 18. And if you're changing your location, it has to be within the last 30 days of election, or else you would go to your last polling place. So there is some deadlines for voting. So voting in person, there's 2 situations. It's going to be open from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. But for 2 situations that need ID is if you move to somewhere else in the county or it's your first time voting in general, then you'll need to show ID. So there's like 15 options for showing ID. I generally tell people if you have a driver's license, that's usually your best bet. Or if you have a child or grandson or grandchild, to say, I usually tell them to show their student ID because it has a picture and their name on it, so you can tell them if you want to feel you're like you're helping them out to vote. A lot of times it's just easier to do that because otherwise you're gonna have to scrounge up a bill or something that has your name and address on it. If you go to the state website again, it'll say where your polling place is and every single information, like what district you are, so you can look up your candidates. All that is right there on the website. It's basically a one-stop shop of voting. And it doesn't eliminate us because of course we're always here, but if you're on your phone and you just want to look up all that information, it's right there. For voting equipment or sample ballots, that's all on our website as well. Sample ballots will be ready again, probably closer to when the ballots are ready. So I want to say in early to mid-April, I want to say is when they'll probably be available for looking if you want to look before you get your ballot. And the videos are on our website, like it says there at montcopa.org/voter services. So I wanted to go over the poll workers and who's going to be at the polling location. The three people you'll see is poll workers, the watchers, and the supporters or candidates. So we're the third largest county in the state of Pennsylvania. So we, in large elections, so last year in the presidential, we'll have roughly 2,500 workers. In all other elections, we usually just try and meet the minimum so you're suited. Usually around 2,300 for all 426 precincts. You'll see the judge, majority, minority inspectors, the machine operators, and the minority clerks. So in the past few years, we gotten new machines, Dominion, and then we're actually, it's not official because it's being tested. We're actually going to start incorporating e-poll books, electronic poll books, which if you show up to your polling place, among the many things it does, and you're at the wrong place, you type in your name and it'll give you a piece of paper and it'll say where you're supposed to go, and you can just show up. Like you won't have to call our office in a panic saying I have an hour left to vote. You can just drive over to that place. So we're testing that out. It's the same system Bucks County and other counties use. So it's supposed to, they love it. So we know that it's really going to help. Poll watchers are those that you see at the polls, just assigned there to basically observe, to make sure our workers are following the rules. And neither the watchers or the supporters outside or inside are associated with our office, only the workers are. A lot of times people will call us and say, I had a terrible experience with someone at the polls, and often it's someone that's there just to basically talk about their candidate or to observe. Sometimes it is the workers, but you know, we'll deal with that. But a lot of times the people that you have bad experiences are not associated with our office. So I do have two quick videos. Did you get sound?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, are they playing at both?
Yeah.
Using the pen provided, the voter will mark their ballot. The voter will mark their ballot. Filling in the oval next to
The first one is how to correctly vote, and then the second
has
will
completed filling out their ballot, they will insert it into the slot in the machine. When a valid ballot is scanned, the screen will display casting ballot, followed by ballot successfully cast. Lastly, the ballot will go into the base of the machine. The number on the bottom ballots cast will increase.
So the first one, I know it was a little hard, but the first one is the new machines. Basically, a lot of times we get calls, people worrying, how do I know my vote was counted or so forth. And the video, if the second one will show too, is all the same screen, but it basically says vote was successfully cast, and at the end of it, we showed where the ballot goes. So it says it's been counted, and then it's stored there till we pick it up at night. So I just like to show that video just so when people show up to election day and they just drop it in this huge, it looked like kind of not a recycle bin, but it has that shape of it. that they wonder where it goes. And so I just try to give them comfort to know that it is being taken care of. And the second one again is if there's any problems, there's a couple options to fix it.
Using the pen provided, the voter will mark their ballot, completely filling in the oval next to their choices. When the voter has completed filling out their ballot, they will insert it into the slot in the machine. The machine will produce a few beeps indicating something is incorrect. A warning message on the screen will appear to show that it is overvoted or has trouble reading it. Overvote means the voter filled in more than the maximum amount of candidates allowed for one or more races. Some issues like stray marks or smudges can also cause the ballot to be returned. The voter is allowed to cast the overvoted ballot as is by simply pressing the cast button and will count the races where the voter didn't overvote. Or they can have the ballot returned by pressing the return button. If you would like a new ballot, return to the poll worker who will spoil the ballot. They will then provide you with a new ballot. You can receive up to 3 replacement ballots before having to vote on the ADA machine. Worth noting that an undervoted ballot will still be counted as normal. When a valid ballot is scanned, the screen will display ballot successfully cast. Lastly, the ballot will go into the base of the machine. The number on the bottom ballots cast will increase by 1.
So both of them, the first one showed just a generic what happens if it's done right, and then the second, we've been trying to update it so it gives as much info, and the last part showed that the number actually increases too, so you'll know like that it's continuing to count the ballots saying that it's been received. So we try and continue to be as transparent as possible as we've kind of adapted to the new machines and try to make improvements every election essentially. So voting by mail, for those who've seen the news in the past few years, Pennsylvania passed Act 77, and with that was before the pandemic and 2020 hit. But it didn't become big news until the pandemic in 2020 hit. Basically, that allowed for no excuse voting. That was that was in the works for years and got passed in 2019. Essentially, we've been voting for I'm not sure if it's a century yet, but for decades by mail. But it's just been mostly absentee. With this, it's basically been created where you don't need an excuse. So you don't, like in the past, people would need a doctor's signature or something like that. Now it's just if you don't want to go to the polls, you vote by mail. So the real increase has been twofold. We went from probably receiving 80,000 mail ballots to 250,000 mail ballots in the presidential in 2020. And the other bonus of this is that voter turnout in the years since have doubled. So historically, we usually get, last year we would get between 18 to 20% voter turnout. We got around 40% for an off year. So the positives have just increased tremendously. Like we wanted more people to vote, and it's happening. In 2020, it was the greatest turnout we've ever had this century. I think we had to go back to some point in the 19, I forget if it was the 80s or before that, whether it was like the closest turnout. So because of this, voter turnout is increasingly continuing, and that was the purpose. So getting to it, voting by mail, you have to apply every year. It's really simple. Again, if you go to the website, you can just, it takes 3 seconds, literally just enter in your info, say you want your ballot mailed to your address, and it's, I don't know, 2 minutes. The deadline is the May 9th. You can do that online. And again, I have paper forms for all of them if you like to take it with you. I put their ballots will be mailed in late April. I say that just to be cautious. In years past, we've had some elections, it turned out later than early to mid-April, so sometimes it's been late April, but the latest will be late April. Hopefully, we always say a month before, but this year it's May 16th, so it's probably going to be somewhere between mid-April anyway, so that's why I put late April, just because we have later. Like for November elections are usually the first week. Those are mailed out earlier in the month, the previous month, so it would be like the first week of October. This will be mid-April since it's May 16th. And so quickly, again, as I mentioned, mail-in and absentee. Mail-in, you don't need a reason. Absentee, you can do it, but you'll need a doctor's note if you're injured or an illness or something like that. Otherwise, you can just write away from school. So I don't favor either of them because we can't push you towards either, but I just like to say both are counted exactly the same. If you have any favorite ways you want to vote, absentee versus mail-in, that's fine. Just know they're counted exactly the same. So just want to run through. We're continuing to update this to make it less people worrying if they signed, if they put in the wrong envelopes. So we've actually now, the inner envelope will now be a different color than the outer envelope. So when you get it, it won't be two similarly sized white envelopes and you have to figure out which one to do. So we've learned after the elections that we need to continue to make them. So just put the ballot in the inner one, which I think will be yellow, I think was voted on. You'll see two different ones. And then the outside one is where you sign in date is the white envelope. There's no postage needed if you're just gonna mail it back to us, which, I mean, you can just pop it in the mail wherever you want, it's fine. We will have drop boxes available, which will come back to us the same day if that makes you feel better. Those locations will be posted probably at some point in April because they haven't been finalized yet. And of course, you can hand it to us at our office if you'd like. But I always tell people, if you get it, mail it back. I mean, it'll get to us. I mean, I think most of the people that apply, I think 85% to 90% mail it back to us. So we get it back. So in years past, this is kind of new where we haven't really highlighted how we've been trying to fight and make sure that people understand that we're fighting like fraud or counting the ballot correctly and all that and accuracy. So I just wanted to quickly go over what we're doing beforehand, during, and after to kind of just confirm that this, tens of, hundreds of people are handling ballots, but they're still being counted correctly is my goal to tell you today. So the first thing we do is the way we format them is that everyone's ballot won't interfere if you like bleed through or, because a lot of times it'll ink, sometimes if you use a certain pen, it'll show up on the other side. That won't happen with the way our ballots are centered because none of the options on either side are matched up, but that's not going to happen. Accuracy testing, this is one of the big things people always worry about. How do I know the machines are proper? These machines are tested all year round, and then before we send them out, they're tested again. This ensures that people get credit for their votes. This has to be done by the state as well to be confirmed that all our machines are working. All 426 precincts are prepped, and a lot of people think like, oh, you don't realize we work, 2 elections, but our turnover for being such a large county is that we're constantly working. And so this is really an all year thing. Some counties, for example, have, I think 6,000 voters. We have over 600,000. So their workload is typically a lot less to get a bag full of pens and some stuff ready for their election than ours. So ours is usually an all year thing getting ready. And people think we kind of just show up to election day. That's usually not it. We're usually having panic attacks. Usually. But It's a big undertaking. I came from Bucks County, which was the fourth largest in the state. So I see how they work and how Monco works, and it's a big undertaking to be such a large county. An overview of what we're doing when people worry about what we're doing when we're canvassing. A lot of times as soon as the ballots are coming in, they're stored in a room. So these are before election day. And then once election day comes, we'll start the process. And then once at nighttime are open as well. Your voter profile will be updated. That's why I push people to try and get familiar with the website, because it's kind of a one-stop shop. Like, you can find out if your vote was counted, where you're voting, if you want to apply, all that's on the website. Of course, please contact our office if you have a question, but all that's on the website, and you can be updated before I'll be able to tell you. Poll workers, again, they're updated with this as well, with their lists every day. On election day, only legally submitted ballots are counted, and what I mean is the canvassing process is teams of people making sure whether a ballot should be counted. So we'll have just large room continuing of people going through ballots and separating them, and we have a team of lawyers, and they go over whether it should be set aside and further evaluated if it should be counted. So when people say my vote hasn't been counted, sometimes the state just hasn't updated the site yet, or sometimes a lawyer might have had to review your ballot because you might have not submitted, filled it in correctly. Most of the times, I think almost like a lot of them are accepted, but there's a few that have nothing on it that have the lawyers have to make a decision whether it can be counted or not. And those usually are the missing dates, signatures, or CRC envelope situations. In the state of Pennsylvania, just earlier, we used to not be able to start canvassing, opening the ballots until election night, but they decided to move it to 7 a.m. There's actually talks to move it back even further to give us more time. Larger counties have struggled with getting all the ballots counted, in an orderly fashion because of our size. A lot of the smaller counties will get it, for example, by 2 or 3 p.m. and then, most of the ballots, and then election night, and then they're done early by midnight. Bigger counties, we're running all day into the night, and then the election returns. And so that's why people kind of want us to give us more time as well. There's talks of that, but right now it's still 7 a.m. But, legislation is trying to pass to give us more time so you guys get the results in sooner rather than later. And the last part is tabulating. This is with auditing and tabulating. Tabulators are from both parties that are there. Our process for certifying election usually extends well beyond the first week in November. Usually around Thanksgiving is when I can finally start planning for the holidays. When we're done with the election, is usually around Thanksgiving. So when people, usually the weeks after is counting, tabulating, and auditing and confirming that the results are correct. This is with teams of people making sure essentially if we issue 200 ballots to your poll location and 125 people signed, then we should have 125 voted ballots. And if there's discrepancy, then that's when we go over start auditing and making sure why is there discrepancy and figure out where the numbers don't match up. This goes on after every election to make sure the testing matches, like I said, from before testing, before the election. And the last thing I want to mention is provisionals. They are a ballot, they will count. A lot of the times it's if someone wasn't in the poll book or issued a mail ballot but didn't fill it in, or you believe the primary specifically, you believe you're a Democrat or Republican, but the book doesn't show that, then you have the right to fill in a provisional. Things with provisionals that I do tell people, you probably won't see your vote being counted on election night because what happens with provisionals, they have to come back to us. We have to make sure all the votes from election night and mail-in are counted to make sure you don't vote twice, because if we count that provisional and you voted the other times, now we're counting you at least 2 times. So a lot of times I tell people, if you voted provisionally, give us some time. We need more time than the election night to make sure you have a choice. And the last thing is contacting our office. Our number is right there. We do start to get busy towards election, but for the most part, we've hired, I think, 15 more extra people this election to help us temporarily. So we try and get ready on those. They're always going to be busy, but that's just the way it is. And that's our main email, and that's where our main office is, on 1 Montgomery Plaza at the new remodeled building. We do have 2 offices, one at the Human Services Center, and then the main one is at 1 Montgomery Plaza. So again, thank you so much for letting me speak. Again, it's been a pleasure. So I'll take any questions, and if I have forms as well, if anyone wants them.
It seems to me that the mail-in ballot and the absentee ballot are kind of redundant.
Yes.
They do the same thing, so why have?
So yes. In 2019, the legislation, they basically couldn't combine it and take away that you can just vote by mail with no excuse anymore. So they created a way to help other people get around that, and Act 77 basically gave them a no excuse voting instead of, that's why it's kind of redundant when I have to explain they're the same thing, except one you need a reason. They created it so the only way was to create Act 77, and so they could give you another way to vote with no excuses. It is redundant, I agree. I know they're in talks to kind of see if they can just work to just make it one form for mail voting, but that's going to take more legislation. So for the meantime, there's just 2 forms. The state decided that in 2019, that wasn't like the Montgomery County saying, let's make another form way of voting. So it was redundant. That's what I have to explain that at every speech, so.
When I was in the military, I was stationed in California, so I had to vote absentee ballot. I had to take it to a notary and get it stamped. Do we still do that?
Yeah, so if you're, so the military, civilians overseas, that's called the federal, basically they vote with the federal form. Essentially, it's the federal postcard application ballot. And that's why it's like, we can email it to, or we can send it to, but there's a whole process because you're technically not just like a local in the county voting citizen. That's why. Yeah, you're different. It's a different group. There's I think it's FVAP is the website for military and civilians overseas.
Obviously, the last election, a lot of concerns about voting with the mail ballot. I had seen security video where at one of the drop boxes where the person was there with a stack of them trying to put them in because you can only get 1 or 2 at a time, and nothing after that was done. And I was wondering that, is there this harvesting that can go on? I mean, once it's in there, it's counted, like you said, there's a whole process.
Yeah.
But how they get in there is still up in the air. There's no way to really control whether, like, if they go to a nursing home or someplace anybody can come back with, and evidently they're not supposed to, but they can do this, and there's nothing happening.
No, that's a great question. So as of last year was the fall election, we started having people at the drop boxes, and someone didn't show up. I was there, and I had someone that wanted to drop off multiple ballots. How we're running it in the future is we have people at the drop boxes that are associated with our office. The drop box is locked. And then when someone comes up, which happened when I was there, they had like a sack, and it was simply a woman was just like, I'm dropping it off for my family, and I was like, I understand, but I can't do that. So the drop boxes are now locked. So if we were only operating, we were from 8 to 8 p.m. So if someone comes up, they have to show us their ballot. And if they have a stack of them, we were just saying you have to be turned away. So we're trying to eliminate that because I've seen the reports of other counties and in the past where it's been people that show up with a stack and there's no one at the drop box and they're just dropping it off and it's like, what's going on? So we are trying to combat that. Again, the only reason that you'll see anyone on dropping off multiple ballots in the future is if they have the designated agent form and they're dropping it off for their spouse who's handicapped or something. Otherwise, with the people there, they're trained to told only open it if this person has one ballot. So, and we did have instances where someone was physical and the cops were called last election. So like, it is unfortunate, but we're trying to do as much as possible to try and make people understand that this is as safe as possible and people are dropping off their whole nursing home. So.
What happens if you have a mail-in ballot, you mailed it in, you check on the website, it doesn't show up, and then you go to the poll the day of and vote?
Oh yeah, so perfect. So when the provisional ballot is like the exact situation. What happens is our system, if you show up and it says you voted, like you applied, but we didn't receive your vote, that's when you vote provisionally, and then at the end of the night, give it, see if your mail ballot did come in. If it didn't, we'll go to your provisional and count it. Because if we just count your provisional and then we see you voted by mail, then we have two ballots. So that's why it's basically just us double checking you're not voting a million times. That's yeah.
Can you accidentally vote more than once?
No, our system won't let you because once it receives the good ballot, like it wouldn't let us continually to add like multiple ballots. Like it stops it. Like if the mail-in ballot was good and we have a provisional, the provisional is just simply said like already voted and that's it. Yeah. So in the large year, provisional ballot, I think we had 10,000. So not where they tried to vote twice, but where we had people had to fill out provisional and we had to check over 10,000 times whether they voted twice. I guess to answer your question, I can't tell you how many of them were they voted by mail, but I would say a good majority happens when either they applied and they weren't sure their vote counted, or they think they should be at this polling place and they want to vote, by provisional. So in the off years, it's a lot less. Like that's a large number. Like don't take that as like the usual. In the large years, it can be 10,000, 12,000. Most elections, it's hundreds. Just it gives or take the election, but for the most part, it's people have like already voted or they do the provisional. It doesn't usually happen, like I said, it's way less common than like that 10,000 number that I'm telling you.
Are they gonna do anything with voter ID? I want to tag this on, we're going forward with real IDs.
Yeah.
You use, go to a hospital, get on the airplane.
Travel.
Why not have that for voting?
I know, so I know there's bills proposed about voter ID, but nothing's like it's just on the table at this point. I know they're trying to make it more transparent with when you need it versus when you don't. They're trying to there's bills proposed right now that are trying to make it so it's one shot be all, like whether you need a voter ID or when you don't at all. So Montgomery County at our level, the county level, doesn't have a say in it, but I know the state there's a bill they're trying to discuss about voting and voter ID. So it's with a lot of the bills, it's going to take time. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think one of the key points from that presentation to think about is we've got a big county. We have a lot of voters. So, it takes a lot, certainly over the last couple elections, I'm sure they've gotten a ton of feedback about election systems and things like that. So it sounds like they're doing a lot of great things to make sure that we're having as fair of an election as possible here in Montgomery County. Brags and Stags? Yes, Larry.
Does everybody here know John Moyer? John Moyer, CEO of Moyer's Door Outdoor. Moyer, Phil told me 2 weeks ago that he died, and I didn't believe it, and I couldn't believe it. He wasn't listed in the obituaries, but he didn't die. It's supposed to be because he's my age, and like 6 months older. I've known the guy for years. Gary and very generous. Every project that went on in Somerset in this area, he had a hand in it. He had his lawn. What you may not know about John Moyer is really a classical pianist. So that was his career path when he got called, not the call, but the family. He was the president of Moyer's. He's done an excellent job in growing that business. But he was the most open guy you ever met. I used to see him Saturday nights at the Kimmel Center. John had a seat right smack in the middle of a floor, because I guess that was the best of Tuesdays. And we were sitting up in what they call the conductor's circle, which is behind the orchestra. He'd see me, and I'd see him, we'd be waving at each other. But the thing that strikes me was the story I like to tell. Years ago, I'm driving up 113 here, heading towards Southampton, and stopped at that light where CES is and the Chrysler place. And it was a black Mercedes sports car. I recognized John Moyer. Apparently, he saw me in the rear mirror. He puts on his parking brake, opens the door, stands up, and waves at it, climbs back in his car, and then moves on. And that's the kind of guy I was. And I gotta miss it.
Anybody else? Yes.
I'm Bragg Innisang. Bragg was, last week was St. Patty's Day. Friday, I went to the Piccadilly Inn to see MGK was broadcasting live from there, and I won tickets to the big gig in September. I had my kilt on and everything. Saturday, I went to the Celtic Festival in Percy, entered the kilt contest, did not win, but I had a blast. But I did such a busy day. I came home in the afternoon, took a nap, and completely missed the foundation gala. that's my sad. I paid for it, $75. So the foundation, it's my donation. But I'm 8 o'clock. I'm getting ready for bed. I'm like, oh no. So,
Even one committee goes out.
I think
You can take it home if it's easier.
Anybody else?
If anybody went to the foundation gala, was it fun? I'm so bummed out.
Okay,
Okay, now it's time for the raffle.
Read it out. 3969234.
2, 3, 4. Frank, all right. The pressure builds, there's a few T's remaining.
I did.
Good. Any final comments before we conclude for today? As you go out and about today, I know there's been some golf discussion today. I know heard a couple people talking about golfing this week. So if you're out on the course and you see other golfers, maybe those might be future Rotarians. You know, kind of think about some of the great tournaments that we've had in the past and so forth. Kind of like on this day in 1934, when the first Masters tournament began. So when you leave today, we are going to simply talk about Rotary today. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll talk to you next week.